Today's episode of Lone Star Lawyers on the Varsity Podcast Network is brought to you by Varsity Search. Varsity Search builds great teams by connecting lawyers in Texas with career opportunities at small and boutique law firms. So if you're thinking of making a move or your law firm is looking to hire, please go to varsitysearch.com and book a time to visit right into my calendar. Varsity Search, building great teams. Hey everyone, Daniel here back with you on Lone Star Lawyers. Before we get started, I want to let you know about a few of the opportunities that we are currently searching for. In Dallas, we continue to have multiple business and commercial litigation positions, insurance defense, as well as construction litigation, some real estate and transactional work, as well as just general trial work and white collar. So if any of those are interesting to you or someone you know in Dallas, please reach out to me. In Austin, we've got family law and commercial and insurance litigation. In Tarrant County and Fort Worth, we've got family law, we've got real estate, and we've also got creditor side bankruptcy litigation. In Houston, we've got personal injury and also insurance defense. In San Antonio, commercial bankruptcy litigation as well as commercial litigation. And in Tyler, and also this could be flex or remote potentially, IP and commercial litigation, as well as a transactional position. So lots of things going on all over the state in different types of firms, different size firms. So if any of those are interesting to you, please reach out to me, Daniel at varsitysearch.com, and we can visit about it. All right. Today we are in Dallas, where our guest is Shamir Soni. Shamir is the managing partner at Patel Law Group, where he focuses on real estate, corporate, and business matters. Specifically, Shamir works with real estate developers and investors in connection with purchase, sale, improvement, refinance, leasing, as well as private offerings tied to real estate transactions, mostly in the multifamily space. He also works with businesses on formation and transactions, employment agreements, mergers and acquisitions. He also has a few film and entertainment clients as well. He has been named a Super Lawyers Rising Star each of the past 7 years. All right, with that, let's hop into our conversation with Shamir Soni on today's Monday Mentors episode of Lone Star Lawyers. All right, Shamir Soni joins us right now. Shamir, thanks so much for taking time to come on the show with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm excited to visit with you. So start us off by telling everybody a little bit about your firm and your practice and what you all do there at Patel Law Group.
Yeah, definitely. So I am a managing partner at the firm. I run the real estate practice, which primarily consists of multifamily or apartment complex purchase, sale, finance, development, kind of runs the gamut across transactional real estate for our multifamily clients. Mm-hmm. I also work with some of our retail, industrial, and hospitality clients. Those are typically in conjunction with my partner Anish Patel. Mm-hmm. However, I kind of run the multifamily side, single-handedly with our associates and the staff on our team.
Awesome. And then the firm more broadly has a broader mix of practice areas, right? We've got litigation, yes. Some other things. Yeah, tell about that a little bit. Yeah,
definitely. So our firm has been through kind of an evolution, right? So when we started this 11 years ago, it was three of us sitting in an office, and we've since grown pretty significantly. We have the law firm, and we also own a fee office of Fidelity National Title. Our law firm is kind of built around what we consider our typical entrepreneur, which is that they own a business, they invest in ancillary businesses, and they want an attorney that could support both their core business along with their ancillary investments. So originally, when that started, their core business was an IT staffing company, a hotel business, or they were practicing physicians. That was kind of our three prototype clients that we took, and we said, okay, what can we build around them?
Yeah.
And so it kind of out of that arose our business immigration practice, mm-hmm. which consists of my partner Rakesh Patel, my other partner Chris Prescott, and then a host of paralegals, and they work with businesses that have employees that are moving to the U.S. or working for U.S. corporations, and they support their immigration needs.
Mm-hmm.
We have my real estate practice, which is myself and my partner Anish Patel, also a fellow Baylor lawyer. Of course.
Yeah,
and
of course.
So Anish runs the hotel side of the real estate practice. I run the multi side. We both kind of jointly run the retail, industrial, and land dev side. Anish does more residential land dev than I do. He also has kind of an ancillary estate planning practice, which goes with that. Again, tying back to if I'm a high earning entrepreneur, estate planning is relevant from a succession or estate planning perspective. And then we have an immigration practice, which is run by its managing attorney, which is Chris Lowry, again, Baylor lawyer. And Chris has done a great job kind of taking our litigation practice, which is undefined. It was probably far too broad and included too many practice areas. He took it, he's distilled it down, and we've kind of offloaded a whole host of clients, and now we're left with clients that are adjacent to our transactional real estate practice. So we deal with disputes that are arising out of purchase contracts, easement issues, land right issues, landlord-tenant issues arising out of our multi-business, management and investor issues arising out of our real estate transactions. So we've kind of really pared back the real estate practice and the litigation practice and tried to make it adjacent to our litigation practice, and that's really allowed us to provide much better service and drive fees, which are both important. Yeah, no,
that makes complete sense. Well, and I want to ask you one follow-up to that. As you were telling that story, it's really, I'm always impressed with you all thinking about the fact that you mentioned that you started this 11 years ago, and you all are young guys, relatively speaking in the legal field, and to think about having done that almost over a decade ago. And so talk about what that was like, starting a firm from scratch, the three guys in the office. You're not starting a .com, but you're starting like old school, you're starting a law practice. And what was that like in those early days? I mean, gosh, think back about that a little bit.
Feels like it's forever ago, right? So my story kind of goes back further than that, right? So I graduated from law school in 2008, graduated from Baylor, did my LLM at Emory, and I worked at a large firm for a few years doing film finance, pretty sophisticated stuff, repping West Coast studios on their Georgia operations, and working with the Georgia government on their tax credit program. So pretty sophisticated corporate stuff, but really took advantage of my background in finance and tied that in with the legal component too. So it was kind of a perfect storm of what I was really comfortable with, kind of my safe space. And then when I moved here, entertainment wasn't really relevant in Texas. I repped the seller of the studios at Las Colinas when we sold that to Glenn Beck, which is a pretty high profile transaction. And kind of the intersection of what we do, right? So it's the intersection of real estate and entertainment. And continued from there, kind of just building a practice from scratch. So, had no contacts, had no clients, just kind of trolled LinkedIn, set up tons and tons of meetings, went to every event I could go to, met every person I could meet, every chamber event, every meetup, honestly, everything. I wasted so much time. But out of that arose kind of a lot of just like chance meetings, get in front of somebody, tell them your name, and make sure they remember your name. And we're still benefiting from that now, right? Like I randomly bump into people, or will be on the other side of a transaction from somebody that's like, I met you when you were at this chamber event, or this, this tech meetup, or this real estate, meetup, or whatever it was, and they may not have been big players back then or relevant back then, but they were there, and I was there at the same time, and that resulted in kind of what I would consider kind of a natural credibility that they then took advantage of later on, right? So, and Anish did the same thing. He would do a 6 o'clock, I think it was like 6:30, weekly networking meeting at Steak and Shake. He would do it every week, and he is not a morning guy, but he did it just to put in the time, and we generated business from it and leads from it, and he's had some really great estate planning clients that have resulted from relationships that he had generated during that. Similarly, Rakesh was on the board of the Irving Chamber of Commerce. He was on the board of the some of the South Asian chambers and organizations. He's done a lot of stuff with AILA, which is the American Immigration Lawyers Association. So he's been kind of really hands-on in terms of building his identity and his brand, which has then kind of transitioned into where we are right now. So, there's no bad meeting. There's no bad meetup. You just need the objective as a young lawyer should be get out there and, split your time between building your skills and building your network, because that network has value, into perpetuity.
Yeah.
Especially if you do good work or if you're, not a jerk.
Right. Absolutely. Well, talk about I love all of the networking stuff there, because it's so applicable. Whether you're a young lawyer in a firm, not looking to necessarily go out on your own yet, but just to start building those relationships, all the things that you're talking about apply across the board. I mean, ultimately, as a lawyer in a firm, you're going to need to be able to have your own book of business, whether it's working in another firm or having your own shop. So it's all applicable, right? And then, but also, I'm curious about how did you, I imagine you had to be a quicker study in terms of on the skill side of things, getting up to speed to be able to maybe make up for a lack of years of experience. You had to really kind of compress that in to the years that you had at that time and even up till now. How were you able to do that and feel good about, the legal work that you were doing for people?
Yeah, so we did a couple of different things, right? So number one, I built relationships with people that knew what they were doing and were a phone call away. So I was like, look, at that time, early in my career, CMBS, so commercial mortgage-backed securities, were really, really popular in the hotel side. I had no freaking idea what I was doing. So I made built relationships with the right people, and I'd send them the work, but I was like, let me watch what you're doing. Let me figure out how you're doing it. And fast forward to now, and almost all of our multi deals involve some sort of CMBS component, right? And we're leveraging that experience, right? So some of just watching and learning, some of the stuff is transported from the film business. So at the end of the day, you're reviewing an agreement, what you're looking for, and I'm basically taking that same skill from the film finance side and applying it to the real estate finance side, right? So fundamentally, like at the end, a deal's a deal, a loan's a loan, and sure, there's different components in different sectors, but you're doing for your client, you are looking for kind of similar tripping points and similar key terms. Yeah. So those ported over from our entertainment, film finance experience. There's some times where you're going to take what comes through the door and you're going to figure it out. And as long as you have the resources around you to figure it out, you're probably okay.
Yeah. Wow. Man, what an exciting time. And so the last thing about that I wanted to ask you is, how have you all thought about the type of culture that you wanted to build within the firm? As we've worked together over the last 6 or 8 months, I've kind of got a feel for that a little bit. But I'd love to hear that from you about how you went about that and what your goals are there.
Yeah. So we, when we put this together, I had been at a large firm that was like a Vault 30 firm. So, I had the jerk managing partner up my butt about billing hours. All the memes, I've been around them, right? So like managing partner, what is on you about hours? Supervising partner doesn't do any work, you do all the work. We'd seen kind of a lot of that. Fortunately, I had great bosses who taught me just a ton, so I was fortunate, but I'd seen it. Right. And so building this firm, we kind of wanted to, and then the other important experience is that when I started, or right before we started this firm, I had exited. We started a company and sold it to Apple. It was a tech company. So I'd kind of seen like the tech side of stuff, right? Yeah. So I was like, all right, if I'm doing this, we're going to do it. We're going to be the unlaw firm law firm. Like build a place that people enjoy coming to work, where they don't feel like their boss is up their butt all the time.
Right.
But that rewards really great quality work. And the objective was for that to permeate through everything we did. So client relationships through to employee relationships, everything should be built around like we're trying to do stuff differently.
Yeah.
So we started with, hey, like, and we still do this. We do relatively casual Fridays. We do a lot of firm events. We do kind of happy hours typically once a month with all of our employees across both businesses. We've tried to keep this as non-law firm. We don't do on the transactional side. We do no hourly. We only do flat fee. So we're not really up. We're not really focused on billable hours. We're focused on quality work and total collection.
And total collection.
That's really what matters to us, right? I can't pay my bills in hours, unfortunately.
Yep.
We tried to look at what was wrong with law firms and how to improve it, and that's kind of where what we used as the cornerstone for what we did here.
Yeah.
And as we've grown, we've tried to preserve a lot of that. It's difficult. Like it's hard. You can't do litigation without hours. You need to bill hours.
Right.
Immigration is exclusively flat fee. It's never hourly. So that solved the problem there. And then transactional, we probably undercharged a little bit in the beginning. Now we probably charge exactly what we're worth, or maybe a little bit more, but that's okay. Some of it comes with experience. Some of it's kind of trial and error. And some of it is, we had employees leave and we did exit interviews and they're like, yeah, we really didn't like this. And we're okay, cool. That'll be something we've got to course correct on. And that's kind of what we did.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. Well, hopefully I think people are getting a feel and a sense for the type of business and firm that you've built over the last decade. And that's definitely what I was hoping for. And so thanks for that. Also, with regards to the real estate section in your specific area, I wanted to ask you about that. Are there things, what's kind of top of mind for you right now in that space, or either in terms of any changes to the law or changes within the industry that you're seeing, or things that are a focus?
Absolutely. So one of the things I do, and I think that makes our firm really different, is I do a lot of our business development meetings. So to the extent we've reached out to somebody or we've met with somebody, at least me and probably Rakesh and I or Anish and I, we'll do a follow-up meeting and sit down and have lunch with them. So we spend a lot of time kind of assessing what the market looks like, assessing what our space looks like, and making sure that we have the absolute like subject matter expertise. We're on the cutting edge. So with respect to kind of our real estate practice, obviously, real estate is broken down into a handful of different verticals. I run multi. Our multi practice this year will probably do like $2 billion in transactions. That's
incredible. Wow.
And a lot of it's, a lot of it's just the market's kind of crazy. Money's free. Money's free.
This is all over the country, obviously. You're not limited geographically with this. So like these types of...
Our practice is like 95%, 97% Texas.
Okay.
And probably like 60% North Texas.
Okay. Wow.
So,
I stand corrected. Yeah, no. So that's more. Yeah. Okay. That's just Texas. Amazing.
Yeah. No. We just because I don't really like doing deals outside of Texas. It creates, it just means I've got to get local counsel. I've got to do all these.
Yeah.
I got to do more work. So
and
right. And I got to deal with brokers I don't know. I'm dealing with other people I don't know. So we have a really robust foothold on the Texas multi-space, North Texas multi-space. Okay. In terms of relationships with brokers, lenders, whatever. So we've got, owners. So we do focus on that some, but we can do deals anywhere, and we have done deals all over.
Yeah.
But look, multi's on obviously an insane run, and continues to be and with no, true end in sight. At least right
now. Is there on that? Is there a sweet spot in terms of how big the projects are? Like, I mean, when you're thinking about like, a small building with 100 units versus a big building with 1,000. Like, is there kind of do you see trends there? Like where, and I'm sure city to city and community size obviously dictates some of that, but does it all work right now? So
right now, I consider a multi deal above like 30, 40 units.
Okay.
Below that, you're a handful
Yeah.
of like eightplexes or quadplexes.
Yep.
Our practice, we do deals ranging from $2 million to 300 and something. I think is the largest we've done right now. $300+ million. And those consist of single assets all the way up to multi-asset portfolios, which are relatively, complex transactions that require a lot of hands.
Right.
All those spaces in and of themselves are in a really great position right now. Obviously, pricing varies depending on a whole host of factors that we could go into. But fundamentally, based on core, based on location, based on age, and based on kind of the degree to which it's been previously remodeled or updated. And then rent roll, because at the end of the day, you're buying a cash flow stream.
Right.
So multi is great. Industrial is really hot right now. That's ranging from, your tilt wall, massive Class A, all the way down to basically a glorified tin shack. It's all hot. There's no inventory. We have folks that literally are buying like A minus B deals and bumping rents like $2-3 a foot on their next turn, which is an unbelievable amount of return really quickly.
Yeah.
Retail's really starting to pick up, particularly community retail. That's a shopping center that doesn't have a Albertsons, Tom Thumb, whatever anchor. Those are doing extremely well, particularly because your tenant, your lease is typically guaranteed by an individual, and this is the individual's primary source of income. So if mom and dad own a restaurant, they need to make sure that restaurant doesn't go to shit because that's all they got.
Right. So that's more of like you pull up to the corner in your suburban neighborhood and there's like 6 or 8 businesses in kind of a one strip that are all individual businesses, like a dry cleaner, a donut shop, and a whatever. That's what you're talking about. Okay, got it.
Dry cleaner, donut, dentist.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff, right? And that can scale up. So we've done it. We did a large transaction here in Dallas that was, it was community in that there was no anchor, but they had 27 tenants, and it was a larger deal. So we've done that. We did some of that. Hotels have just been crushed, and they continue to be crushed, except kind of the lower end hotels, Motel 6, Super 8, that sort of stuff's doing okay. But the upper select, the Express, the Courtyard spaces, still really struggling right now. And we expect that to struggle at least through like Q2 next year. While businesses remain, closed or mostly closed and typically on a travel shutdown. Yeah. So that's the challenge there. And then residential, obviously, in Texas, residential is on fire right now. You can't build enough single family. Right. So, but the challenge there is also those are long lead time items. So even if you started to buy a piece of dirt right now, by the time you get it entitled, you get all the utilities in place, you get city to sign off, et cetera, you're not putting somebody in a house, you're putting a head in a bed until 3 years from now. Right. So, there's a lot of lead time there and a lot of inventory related issues. Our business has been somewhat affected by, the COVID-related shipping issues, et cetera,
supply chain stuff.
Yeah, supply chain. Particularly on the multi side, it's affected our ability to rehabilitate units quickly. Yeah. Because our clients will buy, if I'm rehabilitating 300 units, I got to buy 300 dishwashers, 300 stoves. That all comes here on a ship. It's not made. Right. So I got to
They're all stuck in a canal somewhere.
They're sitting somewhere, probably out off the coast of California, anchored. Right. So we're seeing, that's starting to affect our business, or not our business, but our clients' business, and consequently, kind of our business. Yeah. So there's some of that, but generally, we've been fortunate to be in North Texas during a relatively difficult period where our clients have been extremely resilient.
Yeah. Well, and then as you mentioned too, and we can wrap this section up with this, but just, paring down, like you said, kind of streamlining your litigation side to focus then on just the connected adjacent issues to what your transactions make. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure that's been, to the extent that when it's not going well, when you are having to get involved in litigation with stuff, and you've got that going for you as well. So, that was a decision that was a long time coming. We should have probably pulled the trigger on that 18 months ago, and really just started to pare back. I think adding Chris, who you placed with us, has been a really, really, really great transition point to do that, where Chris comes in, as we transition Yeah, right.
over to Chris, we're also transitioning out clients, and so that's been how we've worked that, and I think it's the right thing to do. I do. I think it'll make us better.
Yeah.
So we're happy to do it. I think it's going to be a good long-term decision.
Cool.
Turning away clients is never fun. So
no,
especially when you come from, we come from a time where I would take whatever. And suddenly now I'm like,
take everything that comes in the door, and now
I take
you're
whatever comes through the door
people.
and figure it out. And now I'm like, you know what? This isn't going to work. We're not the right firm for you. And that's a really, really it's an empowering kind of feeling. Like we turned away $100,000 multi-deal the other day because we're just like, we don't have like, I really don't feel like doing it over Christmas. And so,
I love that.
and so we're just like, you know what? We're going to pass on.
Right. But you've done a ton of work over the last 11 years to get to the point where you can say, no, I don't want to do this deal over Christmas. Like how many?
Yeah. I mean, it's really like, it's been, this year has been really, really good to us. And I was like, I looked at my paralegals and I'm like, I'm not putting you guys through that. Like, it's not worth it.
Right.
Because it sucks for me, but it also sucks for them.
Yeah. You're thinking about your whole team and what the strain it'll put on them. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on working with and observing young associates, young lawyers in law firms, and some things that you see they do well and right, some things that you see they struggle with. Most of the folks listening to this are young lawyers in their first few years of practice. What are some thoughts there?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this, and because we have another associate that's starting, a younger associate that's starting here next week. And so, I was really fortunate. I had basically one boss who took me through 3 different firms when I was in Atlanta. And so I learned a ton, right? I learned not only the legal side, but I also learned the business side because we had to transition clients, we had to do file transfers, we had to do all this stuff that wasn't really billable. But it was business, and I was I would have to make calls to clients saying, "Hey, we're about to move. You're going to get a file transfer letter. Please sign it and send it back to us." And their next question is, "Why are you moving? What happened? What did you like?" I had to have all those conversations. So I think and then the other thing Steve would make me do. His name is Steven Weisnecker. He's a partner. He's a partner now at Barnes Thornberg in Atlanta. But back then we were at Lewis Brisbois, Bisgard and Smith, which was a California-based firm.
Yep.
So Steve would invite me on, a lot of our BD meetings, lunch meetings, whatever it was. And he's like, look, just come and sit there and hang out and learn. And that to me was probably the single most important thing he did. More so than any agreement I worked on, more so than any forms I developed. It was like, sit there and just watch how we do this. And I took away just a ton, because at that point I took away not only kind of the legal skills, which is what everybody takes away from their first job, but also the business skills and the business development skills that allowed me to then take to build the firm, right? So that to me was the single probably most important part of being a relatively young associate. So my advice to all of our associates, and I tell we had a couple of summer 1Ls this year, is like, number one, obviously take all the deals you can in as many verticals as you can. Try and see everything. You can't make a decision unless you see everything. And then number 2, do as many meetings as you can. Get out there. Get in front of people. Because that's where you're going to learn what clients are looking for. You're never going to truly learn what your clients are looking for sitting behind a desk and banging out docs that you're a cost center. You're not a profit center at that point.
Right.
And your objective is to get on the other side of the income. You want to be a profit center. You want to be adding value to a deal, not like, damn it, I got to pay lender's counsel another $75,000. You want to be like, I paid our attorneys $30,000 and they landed us a beautiful, it was a smooth deal. That's where you want to be, and that's what we strive to do. Is like, hey, I feel like we did a good job. Not when we closed a massive deal. It's when we closed a massive deal and nobody was, there was no fire drill at the end. That's usually when we did a good job. And that's what makes us different. It's like, we see ourselves as like collaborative, as partners with our clients. And we see ourselves as part of the transaction. Our clients succeed, we succeed. You've, as an associate, you've kind of got to see deals that way rather than see them as a piece of paper. Like you've got to, my biggest complaint about hiring associates out of big firms is that, when you have a different person to push each key on the keyboard, you don't get to see the keyboard.
Right.
And so, if I'm the associate that only does title review, if I'm the associate that only does the PSA, if I'm the associate that only does the closed docs, if I'm the associate that only does, the loan agreement or the deed of trust or the non-consolidation opinion, like you got to walk out of that position with, I know how to do a deal, because your clients are not expecting you to come in and be the title review guy. Your clients are hiring you to do a deal.
Right.
And that's kind of how Steve kind of trained me, is like, look, you can be really good at one teeny tiny piece, but you really need to understand like the whole picture, like see the forest, then focus on the trees. And that's my advice to all of our all of our summers, all of our associates, is like, I'll teach you each of the trees, but you've got to see the forest first. Like, understand how a deal works and what the various components are, and then we can drill down into how to be the best at each of these components.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think, one of the things too about, you were fortunate, like you said, to have a partner that was proactive in asking you to come with them to all those meetings and learn all of that. And, not everybody has that in whatever situation they have. But at the same time, it's not always because the partner wouldn't want to take them on it. It's just they don't think about it sometimes. And so, like, I think associates should feel, be smart about it and have some context, but to go and ask to go along on business development or client meetings and things like that, and be proactive as an associate to go and do that, so that you can let that partner know you're interested in that. They might not know that you would want to do that,
and some of that comes with trust. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
The more time I spend with my associates, the more I get comfortable with the fact that they're probably not going to embarrass me when I put them in a relatively high value situation. Like, I'm like, okay, if I know that you understand the language and you understand a deal, then I know when we were out there, you're not going to say something stupid, because I've still got your name still on the bill. Like, I'm still charging for your time at some point.
Yeah.
And if they think you're stupid, I can't charge for your time anymore. So, from my perspective, it's like, look, just, you got to learn the foundations, learn the basic language, learn how the forest looks. Mm-hmm. And then you're in a position to then have those conversations with the decision makers who, typically business folks that are successful see the forest and they see the trees, but they're going to want you to they want to make sure you know the forest too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And when you're going through, you've talked about this a couple of times, when you are going through the process of hiring new associates and new lawyers, what are some of the things that you're on the lookout for? Especially, let's start with just when you're first seeing resumes or things like that. Are there specific things that you're looking for to either include people or maybe even to exclude people at the kind of resume review stage? Yeah,
so there's a couple of things to do. So let's, we recently hired for an associate position in my team, right? So when we were doing that, we had an internal conversation between the three partners of like, okay, well, what do we want? Do we want to go young associate, senior associate? Do we want, what are we paying? All those sorts of things, right? So we went through that economic decision and we came up with kind of a profile of what we were looking for. We were looking for somebody that was a little more senior. We were going to pay them a little more. We wanted somebody that had seen a deal. So like I said, see the forest, right? So I wanted somebody that had done a deal from soup to nuts or seen a deal from soup to nuts. And that meant that they either had some sort of experience in brokerage, because I love the idea of somebody coming out of brokerage into a law firm, because at that point you've been on both sides of the deal. You know what goes wrong. That's a really great background to have. Yep. So they've either come from brokerage or they've come from a mid-sized shop where they've had to see, you don't have a different person on each facet of the deal.
Right.
Or they've been solos and they've done deals that were small, where they've done, small condo, office condo deals, like $500K, $700K, $1 million condo deals. It's easy for me to take them and say, okay, you've seen the foundation. Mm-hmm. Here's now a $100 million multi-deal, which is essentially just two more zeros than your $1 million condo deal.
Right.
But we're doing the same thing. So that's kind of what we had created as like our prototype of what we were looking for. So we started with that. We then, as we get resumes in, we look at kind of duration at each of the stops. content of what kind of deals they worked on. So, a resume that has, just a handful of, associate counsel in connection with $50 million acquisition of multifamily development in Dallas, or associate counsel in connection with $25 million acquisition of hotel project in Houston. That automatically pops, right? Because now we're like, okay, like now this person knows how to get a deal done,
right?
So that's something that automatically puts them at the top of our list. Obviously we're a little bit slanted towards Baylor lawyers just because two of the partners are Baylor lawyers, so
right.
We're like, okay, well, if they're from Baylor, that's kind of a leg up. That helps. And honestly, I think over half of our attorneys are Baylor lawyers.
Yeah.
And that's just been a function of I think as Baylor lawyers, we kind of trust each other a little more.
Right.
And so for me, it de-risks the process a little bit to know I'm hiring somebody that's been trained by Powell or by Wren or the rest of the guys at Baylor. So
even on the transactional side, see, we're not just trial lawyers, right?
Well, I mean, I think there's value there in terms of work ethic. Like, if you've been through that grinder, doing a deal and staying up till 2-3 in the morning because we're closing the next day, you have that like innate desire that motivation to get there. So,
right.
I think that as much as I hated it, and as much as all the transaction attorneys will tell you it's a waste of time, it's not the content; it's more the process. And then I'm sure that's 100% what will tell you.
Yeah.
So there's that. So I think that has value. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and back to your point about the specifics of what's you're looking for in terms of the types of deals, the size of the deals, the location of the deals, the whole deal. I think that's really important for people to hear because I think sometimes candidates, lawyers get in the habit of, having a resume that's a little bit broader and less specific than that. And to where it almost looks more like what a job posting from HR might look like, where we need someone who's done real estate deals. Okay, well, you could put that, or you could put, I've done a $30 million this, I've done a $40 million that, I've done a multifamily, I've done a single. Like that level of specificity, like you're saying, really pops out. But I think a lot of times people don't go into all that detail on a resume. And it's not that they have to list everything. I mean, you could do a deal sheet separate from the resume as well. You could do it that way. But I think getting that information across to the employer is really important and lets people really get a sense of what is it that you've actually done. Because, so many times we can write these resumes with these bullets that looks like we've done a lot. But then when you get in there, it turns out you've depositions, but you've really taken 2, or you haven't taken an expert deposition, but letting people know that is really important, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. So I was thinking about this the other day because I try to rewrite my bio for the website every quarter. And and I think that's a really great exercise because that to me is, I look at my bio as like, I want my associate to be like a piece of that. Yeah. Right. So like, take me, you need to be an extension of me that can potentially become me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's really how do they overlap? Right. So like I just rewrote it and it's got like 5 deals that we did that were multi deals, 5 deals that we did that were non private equity deals, and I think that that's kind of what I'm expecting now from an associate, and even if we just get like a high level and I was pretty specific in terms of location and stuff. I don't care about that. For me, more it's about like size. Yeah. Like was it 400? Was it a $100,000 house, or was it a $100 million build out on a 400 lot housing development? Like those are 2 very different levels of work.
Right.
And the same way, right? Was it a medical condo that was like 4,000 feet, or was it a 40,000 foot mixed use medical, a medical building? Right. So and both those 2 things I create. It's 2 completely different sets of skills to do both. The debt looks different. The equity looks different. The complexity looks different. The issues are completely different. Right. And so, just saying I worked on a medical condo deal doesn't really do it for me. Right. Like, I need more. I'm like, okay, well, what? Yeah, I worked on a multi deal, but I've worked on a 4-plex and I've worked on like a 1,500 unit portfolio. They're both different.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And every practice area is going to have those nuances of what is going to matter. So this is what we're talking about real estate right now. But in every practice area, if it's an employment lawyer, then there's going to be specifics within the employment law field
Right, exactly.
that are going to be different. You were talking about corporate immigration earlier. What type of corporate, like how many people, what fields and what types of visas? I mean, all that stuff matters. And it's not about whether the candidate is like, it's not a judgment upon them. It's just what have they actually done?
It's a fit question.
Yeah. And for you, it's okay. If they come in, what do they already have experience in? We can just plug and play versus what are we going to have to train them up on? And it may be that you can do that. Maybe you can train someone up on some things they don't quite have yet if they've got some other pieces, or you may not be able to do that. But you want to be able to put people in a situation where they can be successful. The candidate can come in and be successful with the skills that they have, and you can feel good about bringing someone in that you are going to slot in well with what needs that you have and what resources you have to train them, or if at all. So it's all about just getting everybody on the same page. What the need is. Yeah.
So I think about it this way, right? So my son is currently going through kind of the private school admission process.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing they tell you is if you get rejected from a school, it's not because your kid's not smart, it's because your kid's not a good fit for the school.
Right.
And I kind of see the search for an associate as a similar sort of thing. Just because, everybody has a different experience profile. We're looking for something specific to fit a gap in our firm.
Yeah.
And just because, if you've done X and it doesn't fit the gap that I have, doesn't mean that you're not good at X. It just means I'm not looking for X.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And the mistake is that people are too general. Like, specify where you're at, or at least think through what I'm asking you for in the job post,
right,
and see whether your resume is a fit for that or not.
Right.
And so I'm not trying to shoehorn you in when I see your resume, and you don't feel like I'm trying to shoehorn you in if I accidentally hire you.
Yeah.
And so that's the way I see it. It's not like an indictment on the quality of your work.
Exactly.
It's not the same. It's just we're looking for something specific. And just like most firms are, they're looking for something. They're looking to fill a gap. Right. They don't just hire because they feel like hiring. They're looking to fill a gap.
Right.
So if we're looking to fill a gap, we expect that the candidate is positioning themselves for that gap. And if they're not, then they're not the one to fill that gap.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. Sometimes we talk about it in the standpoint of like if you're looking to, you talked about doing film finance and production earlier. I think about it from like. Putting on a Broadway show, like you need actors, you need directors, you need stagehands, you need an orchestra, you need all this stuff. And if you have a need for a lead actor, and you have a violinist, and the violinist wants to play, well, we don't need a violinist right now. We have a violinist. We need an actor. We need a stage. It's just we have these different pieces, and there may be some crossover from one to another that could make sense and might work. And so if that's true, like put that in the resume, put that in the cover letter, talk about how you're going to make up for this ground. Let the employer decide. But like otherwise, it's like you just kind of have to make sure that what you're saying is right, because you don't want to get in there with your violin on the first day and they say, okay, belt out your number, and you don't have a voice.
So, exactly. Yeah.
That's you're going to have to leave. You're going to have to get, that's not going to work. So
yeah. I mean, I think about it as like, what position did you play in college, and what position am I looking to fill on my team?
Yeah.
And if you played wide receiver and I need a DB, maybe I can figure out a way to get you there. But if you played wide receiver and I need a lineman, just because you played football doesn't mean that you can play, play lineman. So that's the way I see it. It's like the same exact thing, right?
Yeah.
So
although plenty of linemen think they can be wide receivers. That's
exactly,
for sure.
Of course. Of course.
That's awesome. That's a good example. All right. Well, I don't want to say we've gone over time a little bit here, so I really appreciate you being here. Let's finish up with our rapid fire questions. And we'll end on that note. If you're ready, let's hop into those.
Let's go.
All right. So name one trait or characteristic that you most want to see in an associate.
Work ethic.
Awesome. Yeah. What habit has been key to your success?
Persistence.
Yeah, good. Your favorite app or productivity tool?
NetDocs. We can't live without it.
NetDocs. Okay. I'm not familiar with NetDocs, so I'm glad you said it. I'm going to check it out and link to it too in the show notes for people curious.
Yeah, it's what we use for document management, and it basically over COVID, it's the way we work from home.
Awesome. Cool. What would you list first on the interests section of your resume?
Formula One racing. I'm a huge racing fan.
Oh, cool! Yeah,
Formula One racing. And I feel like it's interesting because I feel like it's kind of like Texas A&M. Like the people that love it all kind of get along together.
Yeah, sure. No, it's definitely a community.
So I'm a big racing guy. Yeah. And so I think that's good. And like that's the other thing. I mean, I know we talk about resumes, but we hire a lot for personality. And we had pre-COVID, we had a coach come in that would talk to a whole team. About kind of how to become high performing, and what he told us, and this is absolutely key to everything I think about on the hiring side, is you can teach skill, you can't teach personality. It's 80% personality, 20% skill, right? 85% personality, 15% skill, whatever it was. Like if you have the right mindset, I can teach you, as long as you're not completely clueless, how to get a deal done. Mm-hmm. But if you come in with a bad attitude, even if you know how to get a deal done, it's not going to work. It's not the right place.
Right.
And that applies for our firm. That applies across assistants, paralegals, attorneys, and it's even more important. We own a title company. It applies across the board on the title company as well, where they're extremely client facing and high stress. You got to have the right makeup to deal with people. That are either mad at you or that are really on top of you. Yeah. It takes a specific kind of person to do that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. All right, last one. Your favorite legal movie?
Liar, Liar.
That's a great one. Absolutely. Yeah. We'll link to. We did a podcast on Liar, Liar about a year ago, and so we'll link to that in the show notes. Yeah, we cover.
Yeah, no, it's a great movie.
Yeah, that was the first comedy I think that we did in the series of these legal movie reviews. So, we love that one here.
Yeah,
good choice.
To Jim Carrey.
Awesome. Well, Shamir, thanks again so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time and being with us. And wish you and the firm and all the guys there all the success.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, man. Appreciate it.
All right. My thanks again to Shamir Soni for joining us on the show today. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider doing two things for me? Would you subscribe so you don't miss an episode? And then would you rate and review the podcast in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen? If you have thoughts about the show or suggestions, or if I could help you in any way, please email me, daniel@varsitysearch.com. Likewise, you can use that same email if you're interested in any of the opportunities that we mentioned at the top of the show, or you just want to visit about what's going on in the market, what opportunities there might be out there for you. So would love to have that conversation. All right, that's it for today's episode of Lone Star Lawyers. Thanks again so much to each of you for listening. I'm Daniel Hare with Varsity Search, and we'll talk with you next time.